peeps, it's Anna here from Disrupt Tutoring, and as always, it's such a pleasure to join you. Today we're going to be answering a Natural Sciences Grade 7 question on variables of an experiment taken from the Herzia Middle School June 2016 exam paper. Okay, the question reads, in an experiment, the factor that we measure is called the what? A. Controlled variable, B. Dependent variable, C. Experimental variable, and D. Independent variable. Okay, but before we actually get down to answering the specific question, we'll just quickly define each of these different variables so that it helps us in answering the question. So a controlled variable is the one whose quantities are kept constant by the scientist throughout the experiment. So I'm just going to type in constant to help us remember. Okay. And the dependent variable is the one in which the scientist focuses on to see what changes come about or how it responds to changing the independent variable. Okay, so this is the one whose values depend on the independent variable and is observed or measured in the experiment. So I'm just going to quickly write observe or measure to help us remember. Alright, an experimental variable. Now this is a term which essentially talks, or rather classifies, that all of these three different variables. There are three variables that are possible in an experiment, and they're all called experimental variables. So I'll just put 3 in there. Okay, and finally, the independent variable is the one that the scientist manipulates or changes in order to determine whether there is a cause and effect relationship between what the scientist is changing and what is observed in the experiment. Okay, so now that we've got those keywords, let's go back to a question and see if we can answer it now. In an experiment, the factor that we measure is called the dependent variable. Okay, because we said this is the one that we observe or measure to see how it responds to changes made to the independent variable. So a quick example to hopefully hone things in. Imagine we're doing an experiment to assess the effect of changing temperature on changing dough rising. Dough as in bread dough. Okay. Now, in that hypothetical experiment, the independent variable would be the temperature, because this is what is going to be changed throughout the experiment to see what different temperature levels will cause on the dough. Okay, the dependent therefore is the volume of dough rise, because the volume of rise you get is dependent on the different temperatures you're going to be using in your experiment. And the controlled variable would be, for example, the components of the dough mix. For example, the quantity of flour you're going to put, the yeast, the water, all of that. Those have to be controlled and kept the same throughout the different phases of the experiment. Okay, so that's that on variables of an experiment. But before I go, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to our epic sponsor for making this video possible. You can read about them and more about us in the description below. Also, be sure to head over to our website for more of these epic tutorial videos. If you can't find the answer to your question, do send it to us and we will respond with a personalized video just for you. Till the next time, stay epic.